Let me tell you some direct things from Jeanette's biography. She's a 20-year African-American World War II, World War I historian, genealogist, research instructor, and speaker. She's also a member of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society and does a variety of things with us, presenting her research, teaching us. She leads what's called the Military SIG Special Interest Group, and they get together on a regular basis to talk about the uniqueness of doing genealogy with people who have been in the military. She was awarded the 2018 University of Georgia Board of Regents GHRAC Local History Advocacy Award. In 2019, she was recognized at the National Conference of AAHGS. She's been a panelist at the Georgia Archives. She's a member of the National Genealogical Society and Association of Professional Genealogists. She's lectured at the Atlanta History Center, and she's been a panelist for the Family Tree magazine. I spent a few minutes talking with her sort of over lunch, and there are lots of things that we have in common. We talked quite a bit about World War I ancestors. And so as you are listening to her, think about your family and how it connects with this. And it doesn't matter if you didn't have a grandfather that was in World War I. Somebody was associated with that. Someone has a card that they registered. And when they did the registration card, the person that they say at the notification person may be their mother. Maybe you didn't have that name before. Maybe you didn't have that address before. There are all kinds of different clues that you get when you're doing real research. And she does very, very real research. If you took advantage of the little snacks out there, I hope you saw the panels that are out there. Those are men who served in World War I. And she's got them listed out there for you. She has where they're from. Very, very comprehensive stuff. And so with that, I've said enough about you. Come on up.
He literally just gave y'all my whole presentation. We can go home now. Everybody gets an hour back. I just get so excited and overwhelmed every single time we do this. I want to very quickly start by following up on the conversation that Marianne and I were having, which is, very quickly, this is a little bit off topic, but we knew during World War I, there was a riot in Houston in 1917. Long story short, they convicted 56 guys. They hung 12 of them the same night. So nobody even knew until the next day. Long story short, they were exonerated in 2018, 100 years later, because they did nothing wrong. Everybody in the room knows about the exonerated five, the 6 Central Park Five. Again, same thing. Well, just recently at our military SIG meeting, Johnny Brown, who is the lead for the Sons and Daughters of the Middle Passage Special Interest Group. So if anybody's really interested in that, and everybody should be, you want to work on that too. She actually sent me an email about the Port Chicago 50 from the Bay Area. Has anybody that I see, Tammy is shaking her head. This is another exonerated group. This is getting to be so frustrating. World War II soldiers who were never trained at all how to do their job of unloading live explosives and ammunitions. The day after Pearl Harbor, they had an explosion in their area and they were all told the white boys could go back to work. Get healed or do whatever they need to do. Just go get fixed up. But you guys, with your fellow servicemen with arms and limbs and everything all over the ground, we want y'all to go back to work immediately. You might be injured, but that's okay. Just go on back to work. Anybody don't want to go back to work, guess what? You're going to be court-martialed and hung. So long story short, because this is not for today, but yet we have another exonerated And kind of what the Atlanta military SIG is going to be doing this year is concentrating on some of these special stories, like the 688, like the Port Chicago 50, that we need to know about, that we're all complaining. We never heard this story before. Why don't we know this story? So thank you for letting me do that little vent session. Anybody that wants to take the lead on doing anything with any of this, what I'd like to find for the Port Chicago is I get 50 pictures of all of those guys that they just exonerated and create a poster similar to the ones you'll see in some of my stuff. Once you put a picture with a story, you can tell the same story all day. Nobody cares. But if you get a picture, we'll talk about how you can get a picture in my presentation of people you don't have. You can take that story to another whole level. And I'm sure if we saw 50 faces of those guys, we would all feel very, very differently about just hearing about this story, about exonerated people. So as you can tell, this is going to be about researching your World War I African-American military service. How many people have tried to research their World War I ancestors? And how many people didn't have very much luck? Okay, so hopefully after today, you'll have a lot more luck, and I'd love to hear the stories about what y'all find. Okay, let's see. So he just told you who I was and exactly what this is all about, today's date. This is what we're going to go over, you guys. We're going to help, first of all, identify who in your family tree might have been in World War I. So we'll help you determine that. We'll look at a series of records, Google searches, the Chrome browser, Chrome browser, Chrome browser. If you don't leave here with anything else, please download Chrome and start using the Google Chrome browser. There are many, many advantages to it that I'll tell you about. Books and archives, that's the secret, or one of the secrets to African-American research. Newspapers and magazines, we'll talk about websites and wiki pages, and also using social media for your research. This is more information about me. The most important thing is please copy down where you don't have to. You will get a handout that will have my email address on it, and that's what you want, okay? There were over 1,100 guys from Georgia alone who actually fought in battle in World War I. How many people are surprised by that statistic? You know, we thought all they did was bury bodies and unload ships, right? They forgot to tell us. So, let me go back right quick. One of the most important things about doing your research and about knowing if your ancestors served in battle is that they literally would have been in one of these infantries. If they are not in one of these infantries, they did not fight in battle. Do not waste your time. It doesn't mean that they didn't serve in World War I, because they served in a lot of other service capacities. But if they were actually in battle, they would have been in the 365th, 366th, 367th, 68th, 69th, 70th, 71st, or the 372nd. Okay, so that's one of the ways that you can find them, and you will know that they actually served in battle. All right, how do we identify World War I ancestors? They had 3 draft registrations. The first one was on the 5th of June, 1917, and it was from all of the men who were aged 21 to 31. The second one was exactly a year later, and they came back and captured all of the young men who literally had just turned 21. Well, they were still fighting the war, and there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of people dying. So they literally needed to draft more people. So they actually did a third round, and that would be people who were born between the ages. Listen to this. Slavery ended in 1865. These would be people who were born 7 years later, 1872 to 1897. So they actually did draft cards on people that were 45, 46, 47 years. They did not go into service, you guys. It's great to find it, to get genealogical information off of, but do not endlessly chase a record because you have a military record, because you have a registration card, because it doesn't mean that they actually went into the service necessarily. Okay. Now, this is a voter registration card right here. It is my grandfather's, and this is a really robust plethora piece of information. You can see on the left-hand side all of the different things you can get off of this one card. So there are 24 million registration cards out there. They actually had them here across the street at the National Archives for a few years when they were doing some renovations up in St. Louis at the VA, the Veterans Administration Center. You guys, there is not a single time that our military SIG came out here and researched those cards where we all did not leave crying, because you literally are touching something that your grandfather touched. And can you imagine what that feels like, to touch something that you know they actually touched? I mean, that X just gets so much more important, you know? That's my granddaddy things. So if you see on the bottom, you see on the left and right-hand corners at the bottom, if that is torn off, what it actually says on the part that's not torn is if Negro, tear here, or if colored, tear here. So if you see that already torn, you know that's a Black person. Okay, so quick note, and you see all the different things. I'm not going to go over all of them, but you see how many different pieces of information you can get off of this one card. So as a genealogical piece of information, it's outstanding. As proof of your ancestors' service in World War I, not necessarily so, okay? But there's going to be another record that is going to be necessarily so. And this is it. This is called the Discharge Service Record card. I actually came out here like I was an employee in the archives, y'all. Myself and that young lady in the black right there, Jackie Herring, we came out here 8 hours a day and abstracted for 6 weeks, every single day. Haven't done it since either. Can't get up like that no more. Color, you can see at the top, it tells you their serial number, which I haven't found very much use for, except for if you're ordering records from St. Louis. So it is important information to have, but not to necessarily drag around with you everywhere, because just don't use it. Up here in the top right-hand corner, it will say either white or colored, and it may be that they're both up there, and maybe white is scratched out and colored is left, so that you understand that that person is colored. You see, it tells you where they were inducted, the date of birth, where they were born. Next area is the most important area, where it says 157 DEP BRIG. These are, from there down almost to the end, are acronyms and military abbreviations for World War I. You can just Google it, just say World War I acronyms, and anything that comes up that has a .gov at the end is a site that you can use for the acronyms. So that DEP means depot, BRIG means brigade. So when they're first brought into the service, they're all taken to one place, and that's where, you know, they're given the original uniform, their hair is cut, all the things that they do. They get their weapons and all that type of stuff. And then they are separated out into other battalions. So this says that he was in the 157th Depot Brigade until September 21st. We see he went in the service. Where is it? Well, I guess it would be on September 21st and
April 30th. Yeah.
Isn't that his birthday? No, that is when he was inducted. Okay, I thought I was right. No, okay, so he was inducted in April, and 4 to 9, so 5 months later, he is actually in this depot brigade, this big, huge brigade, and then he gets separated into the Company A of the 328th Service Division Quartermaster Corps. So I personally didn't even have to get any further than that, y'all. I came up with a whole paragraph just from that right there and a little bit more. So we'll go down. It says he was promoted to sergeant, then mess sergeant on the same day. What we think about that? Okay, then before, it was 6 months before, but definitely before they came back to the United States, he was reduced back to a private. And then you see he was honorably, so I got all bent out of shape. That's how I started this whole thing. I was like, why? We need our whole check, okay? My grandmother started a restaurant. We need anyway, the rest of the check. So you can see where he served overseas. And the Quartermaster Corps are the supplies and everything you do.
Did you tell us this is your grandfather?
Yeah.
Yeah, she said.
The
other side.
She's so it tells you down at the, oh, that's what I was saying. So the Quartermaster Corps is the supplies, it's the head honchos, all the big guys. So by the time I got through, he was working for the head officers there in the service, serving their meals, you know, as a prepared chef. Now, he did come back and start a restaurant, and a lot of other World War I soldiers did the same thing, because many of them were, if they weren't doing service, then they probably were cooks. Okay, so that is what happened with him. I will talk about more about that in a minute. Oh. Big mountains. Yes. Okay. Another quick place to find out if one of your ancestors was in World War I is the 1930 census. Okay, we're going to do a quick tutorial, you guys. You know, the census record is a full sheet. You have the same number on the far left that you do on the far right. You can see on the one that's highlighted on the far right, it's line 86. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, on the far left-hand side, the left hand of my grandfather's name, there's also an 86. So this way you can go across the entire census line and keep up with where you are, okay? So as you can see, we got all the way over to the right-hand side and they asked the question up at the top, were you in a war? And they said yes. And then they asked them which one? And he said WW. Now, some of you may be like, but that's confusing. Does anybody know why it's not?
It was 1330. It was the first one.
They had only had one war at that point, okay? So don't do like my family members did looking at, I should have told y'all that story on the voter registration card, but when I showed the card to all my cousins, they went ballistic. Why granddaddy say he was single? He wasn't single, he was married to grandma. I'm like, there was a time before he married grandma. So same thing here. There was not World War II yet, just World War I. But this is a great place to go and find out if they may. And it could say that they were in the Spanish-American War or a different war. So it doesn't have to be World War I. But this is a great place to find that out. Okay, these are the ship manifests. And these are absolutely invaluable to me in terms of identifying everybody from a particular area. I was able to go through all of these and just pull out everybody that was from Georgia. Now, what it gives you is their name, their rank. It tells you what battalion that they are in. Let me put on my glasses so I can see what I'm talking about. And you see up at the top, it says Company A, 328th Labor Battalion. And then you come over on the right-hand side, it tells you the relative to contact in case of emergency. And it also gives you their relationship. So see, that's so cool. This is a sister, they live in Atlanta. The sister lives in Atlanta. That doesn't necessarily mean that the soldier lived in Atlanta, but it is a high probability that he did. And certainly we know the sister would probably be able to find him. So this, again, is another great record, and you can see all of the lists of types of information it gives you.
What is this?
This is the Army manifest. When they all went over to France, they would sail as an entire battalion. So it may be several hundred or a few thousand people on the ship. And this is a list of everybody that's on that particular ship and the battalion that they were in. And it also tells you when they went over and what their rank is and their closest their living relative, whoever they claim. It could be a wife, a mother, sister. We see a father there. Okay. The American Battle Memorial Cemeteries in France is where most of the soldiers that actually died in France, overseas, are buried. This covers several wars. As you can see over here on the far right-hand side, it has Korean, other, Vietnam, World War I, and World War II. So the very first thing you want to do is select your war because there are a lot of battalions in here. So to get closer to the ones we want, you got to pick your war, and then pick the state of Georgia. And you would have to do each one of these battalions one at a time to get the list of the soldiers from that battalion from Georgia. And then you could see if you could find your ancestor's name in there. Of course, you could put their last name in there too as a way to reduce the size. I'm going to take a whole bunch of questions at the very end. Do you really want it now? You can.
My father was in South Georgia. So he registered in Florida.
Okay, so he might have a card down in Florida, but I promise you, I would have found him by now, but it's okay.
I found him.
Yes. And that is true. When they were on state lines,
Yeah.
they could have, just depending on what the situation was, gone across to. So this is just looking at another way, just another example of how to research these memorials. You can put in the unit, as I said, the state of Georgia, select your war, and you could have put in a last name or even just a first name. Hopefully, a lot of people are familiar with Find a Grave, which is getting to be a better site than it was 10, 15 years ago when they started. It is not a site that you can use as a reference source because it is all volunteers like everybody in this room. Some people have 20, 30 years experience, and some people may have just Find a Grave yesterday. And what they put in there may or may not be accurate. So you can use it as a source to go back and verify the information that you got from there, but you cannot accept that as a fact exclusively just from Find a Grave. Now, one of the other really cool things that I like about Find a Grave that a lot of people don't know about, if you see where it says right here, Save To, most of the people probably use it to save this back to their tree in ancestry, but you can actually create virtual trees, virtual cemeteries on Find a Grave. So I actually had 2 virtual cemeteries out there. I have one for the VEAL family. All over the country, wherever they're buried, they go in there. And I have one for my Georgia World War I soldiers. So no matter where they're buried in the country, I have all of them in that virtual cemetery that I can print out of the list and have the names of everybody that I know where they're buried. In 1930, they had what they called was the Gold Star Mothers Pilgrimage. Just like the exonerated story, I'll be very quick and very brief. Any mother or spouse who had a veteran who died in World War I, they could actually, they paid to take everybody over to France so they could see where their relative was buried. Okay. Now, they had a very nice ship for the white ladies, but they said the white ladies were afraid to travel such a long distance with this many Black women. So they sent them over separately with different accommodations. For that reason, a lot of the Black women just decided not to go Okay. But the ones who did go, you had the option, of course, you could see where they were buried, but you could also have them interned and brought back here to be buried in your family cemetery, in National Military Cemetery, or in Arlington National Cemetery. And we actually have 7 that I've identified that are buried at Arlington. And so, of course, you know, as soon as I find them, I had to run up there and see and everything. So we'll see about that too. I didn't know it was going to come up so quickly. A nice transition. So this guy, so excited. He was a corporal, killed in action. This was the very first one. You know, you just to find anything, I just wanted a picture of anybody in uniform. I was hoping for just one chaplet, you know, just to be able to tell the story and give us a little pride about what we did, besides burying bodies and unloading ships. So when I started to actually find all of this stuff, it did things to me that other people, it might happen to you on a date. I'm just saying. It was very powerful for me. I got excited. So some of them were killed in action. Some of them, the way that I found the ones who are buried at Arlington is usually off of the Mother's Pilgrimage reinterment information. Okay. They had, you could be buried at Arlington if you had career government service. So they didn't have to be killed overseas. It could have just been for other reasons. If they were decorated, if they received the Medal of Honor or the Distinguished Service Cross, the Croix de Guerre, which is the second largest, highest honor that the French gave out. And we received quite a few of those that nobody seems to mention, okay? Entire battalions given to them personally by Pershing himself. Why don't we know these things? Okay, and there's also a thing called Reefs Across America. But as a part of the military SIG, one of the things that we do is make these reefs. And the reef is, for me, symbolic to let them know that it's an African American and that they actually served in battle if they did. This particular guy was killed in action. So I wanted to make sure they knew he was Black. He served in battle and he got killed over there. And obviously this is at his gravesite. Okay, this is a headstone application. These are filled out by the family. So all of this information would have been given to the government in some type of way by the family. The red marks that you see is the government verifying all of that information. I found these cards to be very fruitful in terms of genealogical information, but not necessarily as accurate as they need to be all the time by either the family member or by the government themselves verifying the information. So you want to make sure you have all of the different records and you see the types of things that you can get off of here. Some different types of things that you can get are if they have a religious emblem on them, if they have the medals, their decorations that we talked about, like Distinguished Service Cross or the Croix de Guerre were the two that they, the Croix de Guerre they received from the French. And the Distinguished Service Cross is the second highest honor that they would have received as a part of the U.S. service. But it also tells you what cemetery the headstone is to go to, so that helps you quite a bit. Okay, articles. There's so much good information that you can find out. It might just be one little gem in an article, but that will take you on towards your exhaustive research and to help you find more information out about the people that you're looking for. My favorite one is newspapers.com. I am willing to share my subscription with anyone in the room. You just need to email me and ask me for it. And I've spoken with these different, with them and Ancestry.com, and they told me that I can give my passwords to anybody I want to, because it's my money and I'm paying for it. So if y'all want it, you can have it. Now, Ancestry is another whole story. You can get that too, but you have to set up your tree a certain way. You have to put in notes. You have to put in comments and document whatever it is that you're adding to your tree. You can just not add anybody willy-nilly under my name. Just, ooh, that look good. Just click on that. No, Okay, so newspapers.com, newspapersarchives.com. Both of those are paid subscriptions. Chronicling America is through the Library of Congress and it is free. Okay, and they do have quite a few Black newspapers there. So I would start there first. Genealogy Bank is really good for a lot of obits. I haven't found it to be very useful for me, but maybe it will be better for you. Okay, Auburn Avenue Reference Library has the Atlanta Daily World. So if you're researching in Atlanta or Georgia, that's definitely one of the stops that you want to make. And you can see that in this article, they talked about the heroes who died. This is the biggest, one of the biggest churches at the time, First Congregational, and it's saying that Presbyterian, so a different denomination, and Rush Memorial, which is United Methodist, and the First Congregational Church, they all got together to have a communal service to honor these guys who were killed in action. And they were Lieutenants Brown, Malibu Rush, and Wes Kennedy, Private Wembley and Ray. 150 singers were there. They took part. Dr. H.H. Proctor is the pastor of First Congregational and a really big dude. And he was one of the first Black graduates from Georgia, from Yale University. Okay. Don't play with us, y'all. Let me tell you, this is how we do it. So there's just all types of good stuff. Could go on for a long time about that. You see, I have crossed out standard World War I books. Do not waste your time. If you are doing Black research in those books, we are not there. I am sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, because when you figure out where we are, then you don't have to go through all that crap. You can just look at our stuff. Okay, so reference books. There are a lot of reference books that you can look in to get support information and or the main information about World War I. Those reference books are in all of your main libraries. They will have a reference section where you can go and look at the books. You can take pictures of them. You can't take the books out of the library, okay? Local colleges, they have a lot, they will have collections and sections and what are called virtual files, you guys. Virtual files are the master's and doctoral thesis of the students who work here. Oftentimes, they do their thesis on the people in the area. So look in those vertical files. There could be tons of good information in there. Same thing about the archives. Every state capital has its archive there. So Atlanta is the capital of Georgia. We're in the state archive. So same thing for every single state. And what this is original primary source information. So when they decided to build a road, when it was no road, and they said, we might make this Highway 24 or Highway 1. These are the original documents where they sat there and said, if we get ready to do this, this is where we're going to do it, put the plat maps with it and all of that good stuff. So you know exactly what you're looking at as original primary source information. Everything you document has to be primary source and two sources to back it up, for you to be able to say for a fact that you know that it is a fact, okay? All right, so you should have received a HOLLA book list, which gives you a list of all of the books that I have purchased doing this research. And I know for a fact that I have more books, African-American books on World War I than anyone else in the world. And I dare anybody to take this list and go try to prove me wrong. I'll give you $100 right now on the spot. And I wish I had known I was going to say that before I came in here, because you bust out with my bill right now. That's how sure I am. So, but it is a good list, and you are able to find many or most of the people who served in some type of battle capacity. And if they were in service, it gives you lots and tons of details about when it was formed, where they went, exactly what they did, how close they actually got to the battles. So you will get enough information out of these books that you can write. Once you get that 157 that we had and the 328 service battalion for the quartermaster corps, once you get that amount of information, you're good to go. You can write a whole a PowerPoint slide on that person using size 10 font. Okay, I'm not saying 3 bullet points. I'm saying you can tell the whole story. And that's what's up. And we were talking about you guys, even though they didn't talk about their service very much, what I have found out and what happened directly to me is my grandfather loved being in France. I was 3 years old, and every day he would walk around, parlez-vous français, comment allez-vous? And, you know, he was saying, it's so much fun. We had a good time. Of course, at 3, I didn't understand what he really meant about a good time, but they were treated so much better over there. They were treated as humans. The locals welcomed them into their homes. They did the same thing in Iowa, in Fort Des Moines, Iowa. They welcomed them. They served them dinner. They all came out for the parades, and the parades are a really big thing that I'm finding of pride. And I hope you guys saw it in the 688, but if you ever see them marching, it is such a powerful thing of pride. So we need to keep that in mind, and especially in your research, and not just assume that anything is unimportant or a throwaway, because you never know how big. They actually did a parade in New York once. It was, they all wore white. It was women and children. And it was a silent parade. They never said a word. Can you imagine how powerful that was to see thousands of women and children in white walking down the street, protesting, being discriminated against, or their dads or their husbands being discriminated against, but not saying a word and looking so elegant and pure. I just think that's awesome. Yearbooks are another great place to find information. A lot of the HBCUs and PWIs, meaning historically Black colleges and universities and private white institutions, are starting to put their yearbooks online. They're starting to be digitized. And Howard's was one of the first HBCUs that they did. And this is out of their yearbook, the Bison from 1916. Many of the organizations and schools took the time to highlight their students that went into the war. So this is a page that shows everybody that went into World War I. And the one in the center is actually from Florida, from, look what you did to me. Fritz Alexander is from here. And so I was able to get that great picture of him. Yearbooks, the Negro yearbooks, there are a lot of, they have similar names, the Colored Book of Exceptional People and da-da-da-da-da. I'll show you some of them. But anyway, a lot of them are great books, and you may find some of your ancestors in those books, especially if you know that they went on to do things of note that they would have been written up about. This was a really cool website that is down right now, but it's at Meharry Medical College, and they said they're working to get it back up, where you would be able to verify anybody you think that might have been a doctor. You could just check and see if they went to Meharry, and it would tell you what year they were there, that they went to either the medical school or the dental school, and whether they had an image of them. And look down here, it actually gives you the citation. It is hard to find, even if you could get to it. You have to go down here on the special collections to historical records, which, why there, that makes no sense, but that's where it is, and you can put in the name and find it. Other places, social media, guys, don't overlook social media, and don't hate. Don't hate, especially on websites you know absolutely nothing about, just because you heard somebody say something negative on the news, or, you know, it's all the kids talk about it, grandkids. You better hook up with those kids, you know, like I know. Facebook is a good place. You go out there, look up the last name and city, just email the person. I mean, send them a message and say, hey, I'm a historian. I'm doing research in this area. You have the same surname as somebody I'm researching. By any chance, did your grandfather have the same name? Do you have a picture of him? Do you have any relatives that are still living that may have known him, that may have a picture of him that could tell us a little bit about his personality or what he looked like, what his service was like? So you want to expand your research laterally and vertically to try to find as much as you can. So same things, ancestry.com, To me, this kind of stuff is a no-brainer, y'all. If somebody's tree connects to yours, duh, email that person. Hey, cuz, I just love having cousins. That's my first line. Okay, and they always come back and say, hey, cuz, it's much better than, I think, and the same thing goes with going to the country for research. Do not go to the country all proper, y'all. When you call down there, hey, yeah, how y'all doing? I'm trying to do some research on my grandma. Do y'all have birth certificates and death certificates? They don't need it. Yeah. That's how you want to go. Right. Okay. Good afternoon. I was at the Georgia Archives on yesterday, and I was informed that you should have. You're not getting anything from any of your relatives, that's for sure. But do go straight to the barbershop. I'm kind of getting away, but just go to that town and go to the barbershop, and they're gonna take your mama or any old relative you got with you, because she gonna refresh and they gonna look, oh, she's still fine. They do that. That's not her daddy. I know her dad. I was with her daddy the night he met her. They know. So you don't want to and you, of course, we got to verify. But, you go look at him and say, he do look like him. Mama, now who you say my dad is? Let's talk about it. We got 4 hours to ride home. Let's talk about this. Library of Congress, Google Images, Pinterest, colleges and universities, fraternities and sororities are really, 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 really great. If you know they went to a college, check to see if they pledged. Because the Omegas, I just found this I've been looking for forever, but just a month ago, they have a magazine called The Oracle. And so you can research that. You want to go always Google the name of whatever it is you're looking for in quotation marks. And after that first Google search, you will see the word book out on the right-hand side. I actually could probably try to do that today, but I'm not as good as Tammy, so we're not gonna try to just be all fancy. We're gonna stick with these little PowerPoint slides. We're gonna press this little button. So the fraternity Alpha A5A has a magazine called The Sphinx, y'all, and everything you ever want to know is all up in there. That's where I got half of this stuff from. So make sure what you want to do, you want to have already downloaded Google Chrome. I'll tell you more why, but one of the reasons is so you can go to Google Books. When you go to Google Books, it is going to tell you the book, the year it came out. You will find out everything. So you will also, what I love about it most is it will tell you where you can buy the book, and it will tell you all of the places you can buy it and how much they will charge you. So you can immediately look to see who's the least expensive and go straight to that website. It also will tell you the different libraries that the book is in, where you can go see it as a reference source. Now, if you find that you are keeping books for an extended period of time and you're getting into library book fees, I encourage you to go to Thrift Books and buy that book. I ended up with $90 in overdue charges because I had flags in so many books that because you get one line about that person. So I had 4 books about this one person that had one line. I need to copy that page, copy the cover, copy the main page on the inside, the publishing information page. I need those 3 pages. And then I've got to print them out and put them, label them, put them in the folder for the person where they go. So it's a process. Yeah, and so I had like a bunch of them, okay? I took out a bunch of books. I think I had 19. And I had already renewed them twice. So now we're in the overdue stage. And like I said, I was broke as Scooter Brown at the time. So $90 in overdue charges to the library. You broke when you go to the library. And these books, you guys, are like less than $10 a piece. Okay. So it certainly made more sense to buy the books than it did to than it did to be getting them from the library. Other places where you can find stuff are magazines, got a lot of stuff out of JET, bulletins, catalogs, the colleges have those, you know, churches have them, conventions, conferences, reunions, anniversaries, and programs. All of these things we think about with genealogy, but are we necessarily thinking about them for military? Go and look, they're out there. And in JET, if they were a mucky muck of any type, that was my mother's favorite word, then they're probably going to write them up when they die. So this is one of the doctors, and they're talking about he died at 68, and he was a senior surgeon at Providence Hospital, which was one of the first Black hospitals, teaching hospitals for Black surgeons in the country. And it also gave us another genealogical clue. It says, and he was the brother of Congressman William Dawson. Okay. I already knew that, but it was like, yeah. Actually, at that point, I don't know if I knew they were brothers, but I had files on both. I was like, wow, they're brothers. Okay, so, you know, that took on another whole level of information. Very quickly, what I'd like to share with the experienced people in here who are actually writing books or hoping to get published like I am in the near future with Ebony and Jet. What they said is they would not give the permission to publish until you actually had a publisher and a publishing date. So you will see the pictures, and it shows that I've requested permission and that I plan to get permission for all of these at the end when I have it. I thought it was crazy, and I thought it was kind of like a Black people's thing, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, because can you imagine what is required to go research a picture from the 40s, 50s, or 60s, the original picture, or whatever it is they house it in. I still don't know how they're kept, or if they're kept at all. But I would think that it's a process. And if you don't actually get published, why do you let me go do, you know, you finish this stuff? But, you know, and it makes sense. Like for me, I'm going to have about 10 or 12 pictures that I got between Jet and Ebony. So it certainly is going to be easier for me to do it all as a whole at once. So keep that in mind, you guys. Okay, there are several things that you're going to hear me say are some of the Bibles of genealogy. This is one of the essential documents if you're planning to go to NARA, to the National Archives in Washington, D.C., or NARA 2 out in College Park, which is where they have a lot, if not most of the military actual records that they have, at least for World War I for sure, but probably for other wars as well. This is a reference book that gives you a lot of information about it. Now, earlier I said we don't use books because they're secondary resources, but some books actually compile the original information. So ways you know to tell if it's original resource is if the creator, the author of the book, was if it was at the venue where they actually did it, if it was around the time of the event, if it was written soon after, if it came from other credible resources like the National Archives or the Library of Congress, and if it is well documented. If you never hear it again, I know you heard it in here at least 6 times, make sure your stuff is documented. Newer genealogists that are in the room, if you haven't been documenting your sources, please stop and write down on the bottom of every page where you got it from, while your brain may be able to compile that information again. And that's all questionable. And you will be angry with yourself for the rest of your research in life if you cannot find, and you think it's going to be easy to go back when 1 o'clock in the morning, when you're tired and your head is bumping, and you're like, I know I got something, I got to document, but you can't, you know, like, I do it as soon as I get up in the morning. You can't get back to it. Sometimes you know what you did, you know how, but you just can't get back to it. So you have to make sure you document all of your sources at the time of documentation. Okay, where are we? I got 10 minutes and we're going to speed up. So this is one of the good books too. It is called The History and Views of Fort Des Moines Officers Training Camp. And so these were the 1,200 guys who originally went to the training camp. And this is what they had done before they were in training, you guys. So you can see it gives you quite a bit of information. I got to speed along, but it shows that he was from Athens. It gives us his address in Greensboro, North Carolina. Tells us he's AME. He was also in the 49, so he was a Buffalo soldier. And they all like to talk about, let's see, he doesn't say anything here, but they usually talk about chasing Pancho Villa all over Mexico. Well, you know, and this information came from the original soldiers themselves. I gave them their ranks, but they did not have these ranks, of course, when they first went in, after they were commissioned at the end of the 4 months. And this 4-month training program, the reason that W.B. Du Bois, the president of AU, the president of Howard, was working so hard to get this program for them is because you would get the equivalent of a 4-year college degree when you came out of this commission training program. I'd like to talk to y'all about how it was in the middle of Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, around no people, no women, nothing that could be shot, nothing that Black people could do wrong to hurt the community. But we're not going to go there because you guys know that story already, right? Okay, now there are several of these books that I got very confused on at the beginning because the name sounds so familiar. So this is the history of the American Negro in the Great World War. And it was written by W. Allison Sweeney right at the time of the end of the war. And he was actually commissioned by the federal government to create this book. It's lots of great images. The best thing about researching World War I is it is out of copyright. It was before 1923, so all of the pictures and all of the information before then are free to use. Yay! Full accounts of African-American troops by battalion. It tells you exactly where they went, what they did. Really, really good accounts. It also gives a lot of information about the auxiliary organizations that helped with the war work, which were the YMCA and the YWCA. These are just the beginning. These are 3 of the books that I started with. Great pictures, same thing that I just told you about, great information and more books. I literally have all of these books available for everybody to research. I have a little area that has been built so you can come over with your little sheets and say, oh, but I went to so-and-so, and these are the ones that they have. I want to check up against yours. I need to make sure you got what you say you got. I can't wait for y'all to come. Because you know somebody's going to try to do it, and I promise you, I'm getting ready to go home and frame that $100 bill. I guess I'm gonna have to put it behind some kind of lock. So if y'all come over and research, it's still there when y'all gone. But yeah, I know nobody's doing this. Okay, African-American Doctors of World War I. I'm kind of patterning my book after this book. This is 3 PhDs who did all of their research. And they found these 104 doctors. I have over 200 trees built on my dues from Georgia alone, and I'm doing it by myself. I'm disabled by Social Security with ADHD. You could tell it's real because I'm brilliant like Einstein and Benjamin Franklin and everything, but I have a quirky side like Elon Musk, right? But it's not autism. It is not autism. I kind of wish it was because he's doing something. But anyway, so I'm trying to pattern my book off of this book. It took them 10 years. I'm 5 years in. It was 3 of them. They are already doctoral level professors. So 5 years in, I think I'm on track and it's going to be okay. Now, what is going to happen? I do not have a picture of that, but no, I can't show it to you because this is not mine. Long story short, from one enslaved person, we have 25 family members with a master's degree or higher. 7 of them have doctorates. I want to be the 8th. It's one thing to document them when, you see 10 or 12, but hold up. I want to be on this poster, the same one I'm telling you, create posters with all of these pictures on them. You will be amazed at how much it will change your story, change your life, get your family interested, because now you can post something that they can see. All right. And this is a good book, and it's also an ebook. And if you can, you guys, you can purchase the book, but you may want to consider purchasing the ebook first, because, and the same thing with all of the books that are out of copyright, you can search them. You can, rather than having to go and understand, everybody, if we're talking about books and places to go research, we're not suggesting that you read every single one of these books. I thought folks were really crazy at first when I was coming. No, you want to look in the back in the index. You want to go through every single name, every single one, because you don't know whether it's going to be your hometown, the name, the battalion. You don't know exactly what they're going to mention, a parade that might be of interest to you. So you do want to scan the entire index, right, for different things that might be of interest. All right, speed up. Another book just showing you the similar types of things. See how similar the names are to African-American Army officers in World War I. Okay, here's some more. You can see, so one guy started the ROTC in at North Carolina A&T, so I found a lot of information on him in that book. And like I said, they all give you, I give you different types of information. These are Arcadia books. They are picture books. Hopefully a lot of people have been exposed to them. They, again, you cannot, they're like Find a Grave. You cannot use them as primary resources, but you can get a crumb out of here to go and chase down. Lots of good crumbs in these books. And if you want to cheat and get published very quickly, if you get between 180 and 240 pictures, you can do a book like this, and they don't even care about citations or documentation or anything. I don't even think they care if you put the name underneath the book. So do get yourself to be a published author. Go ahead and start gathering these pictures, especially if people are starting to come to you in your hometown and just give you stuff. These books are the bane of my existence. Is how all of this got started, how I started doing the books. These books are 11 by 17. They were published in 1999. There are 6 volumes with them with over 400 pages in them each, and not a single Black person mentioned. No. That's what I said. That's what I said. I do declare. Okay, so the list that you have in your hand is located in this place right here. My husband, you guys, actually surprised me over the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. We do Fifth Sunday dinner, and it gets crowded in my house when everybody's there on New Year's Day. So he said we needed more room so that more family members could file over. And this is what my garage looked like before they started. And this is what what does that say? The Atlanta World War I African-American Research Center. Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, okay. So I thought that picture was right after it. I didn't put it back in order. All of that preamble and everything. So this, but just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and what it's going to, you'll see it. The picture's down there. But just from Howard alone, these are the 8 guys that I was able to find from there. And you can see the first one is an attorney. The second one is a surgeon. The third one, this guy is just super renowned as a historian, and he was a dean at Howard as well as at AU. Benton Latimer's, his wife actually started the Schomburg Museum, the African-American collection that they have there while she was working there in New York. And he was a dental surgeon in his own right. So you can see all of when I say these guys are the talented 10, they really were the top 1% that were out there. And they came home and they did their thing. Yeah. I would go back and marry just about half of them. They were cute. So these are all the guys from AU. I was going to spend extra time on this. We don't have it. But you can see the different pictures. I wanted to give you guys a variety of what they look like and what's available. And tell you a couple of little quick things. Y'all have to make your questions quick because I'm taking 5 more minutes, but I'm going to answer questions. Okay, I told you I was able to finally find the Oracle, which was the Omega Psi Phi magazine. I knew I had these guys' names, but I had 3 of them, I think. And once I found this magazine, I was able to find so many more. And then I was also able to find some pictures of some of the guys that I didn't have. This picture down here is out of the class of 1920 from AU. So you can see that you can, if you just get close to what you need, you just need to find a place to, you know, really take a high definition picture of it and crop it out and use it for what you need to, although it's not the perfect picture, if it's a good picture. And you can, for this particular one, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised to note that I have more information on these Omegas than the historians at Omega Psi Phi have on
I'm
them.
gonna send it to my brother. He's a cute dog right now.
Please do. Thank you. Let me know what he says. Please let me know what he says. Okay, AU. Is this supposed to be on? This says, oh, that's the camera. Well, I want to go past, okay, now we'll go past. Okay, so what we really need to do is you guys, when I started this project, I was hoping it was going to be like a couple of thousand guys from Georgia, Black guys. It turns out that there's 34,303. Yeah, I put my foot in it, didn't I? But now I get to take all of you into it with me. We have all of these cards that we need to put into a database over the next few years. I would like for it to be done before we get to the 110th anniversary, which is in 2028. Okay, so if you're interested, if you have special skills on how to set up a database, or your child is in school, or they're just an IT special person, please send them our way so we can get this started. Okay, so we talked about all of the different things. You guys know who I am. I want to tell you very quickly about some of the stuff that I've been able to find. So very quickly, there's 1 brigadier general, 3 colonels, 3 majors, 18 captains, 28 lieutenant colonels, 1st lieutenants, 33 seconds. I did find my 1 chaplain and 4 more. They've only identified 1 person through DNA from the Tulsa riots, and that person was from Georgia. The young lady contacted me at the AAHGS National Conference and shared that information with me and asked me to publish it, and of course I certainly am. I have 1 guy who's affiliated with Emmett Till. You'll have to read the book to find out how, or you could read an old AAHGS newsletter. That might tell you. 2 that are under FBI investigations, 7 Arlington, 50 Black men killed in action from Georgia in World War I. Who would have thunk it? 1,100 served in battle, 9 graduated with honors, 13 athletes, Buffalo Soldiers, Pullman Porters, 2 that actually started pharmacies, 1 in Georgia. The second one was from Milledgeville. He liked it so much in Des Moines, they were so nice to him, he never came back. Okay. We have 3 of them that are buried with the voice of Betty Boop. 1 whose wife saved up all of his money while he was in World War I, and he was able to go to Vienna and train in a specialty area. How about that? His daughter was born in Vienna. 1 who's a mentor to Thurgood Marshall, 2 millionaires, 3 inventors, 4 who graduated from Harvard, 3 Yale, and there are 10 monuments to these soldiers. They may not have been from World War I, but whatever they did in their life, they were honored for it, and we're honoring that knowledge. Okay, so this is the cover of the book, The Heroic Gems of the Red Clay, Honoring Georgia's World War I African-American Talented 10. The subtitle is still in construction. So if anybody has a better subtitle, I was told to take the talented 10th out and to just say servicemen, because they weren't all in battle and they weren't all the talented 10th. So to be more accurate, it was suggested that I do that. Okay. Oh, it's not in here. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys. So y'all not supposed to know what it looks like. That means you have, huh?
You have to come to the house.
That's it. You have to make an appointment, which you can do any day of the week, 7 days a week, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. by appointment only. I'm not crazy. And there's free Wi-Fi, free printing, free newspaper.com, and you have me as a consultant to help you with whatever you would like to do. I hate that y'all can't see the picture, but I'm telling you, that's the ancestors. They didn't want y'all to know yet. Okay, so everybody, that's how you find your ancestors.
10 minutes, so will you give us some questions and give us some answers?
Okay.
Let's speak loudly enough so that the people in the back can hear.
Okay, I think her hand went up first.
It's the only reason why I'm asking this question because your research is so intense and it's focused on the African-American military experience. Number one, I would like to confess to everyone, I have not had the courage to view the 888-6. Am I saying that correct? Look, I tried to watch it twice and I just couldn't do it. I'll try again because I hear it being mentioned. I have not been able to pay homage to that. I heard that the young man that does write books, Ta-Nehisi Coates, as he says that he is into the history of the war and he goes around and visits cemeteries and things like that. You didn't mention him, but you know if he's done anything on the path that you're on?
I do not. I know of him, and the majority of what I know is he's working on reparations.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of.
Because I heard him in an interview and he was really big into this because I think he was at that military base up in Newburgh, New York. People know that it's like a military school. I can't think of the name now. West Point. And he was up there talking about the names of some of these barracks. He was like, what y'all doing? So, yeah.
I don't know about all of that.
Yeah, no,
But we do have two that were at West Point, and they did teach the cadets, the white cadets, how to handle their weapons and how to march. And they actually trained cadets at West Point. So I thought they were janitors originally because it said sanitary service.
Okay.
So, or it says sanitary tran. So I thought it was sanitary transportation or something. I didn't even pursue it. But when I did finally have to write him up,
Okay.
I looked up a little more research and it turned out that he was actually a sergeant in the Buffalo Soldiers. And when he got into World War I, they promoted him and he was a trainer at West Point.
Oh.
So how cool. I'm sorry for this.
All right, yes, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Very, very informative.
Yes, it is.
And I came in a little late, so I apologize. If you wouldn't mind putting your email information back up so that we can get that again.
I can do that. It is the abbreviation.
Okay, it's not all right. Thank you.
It's where, there's a machine.
Jeanette, we have another question.
Oh, she was. That's what question I have.
Thanks again for the presentation. Did you mention why you did World War I? Because you've inspired me to not only do that, but maybe World War II as well.
Well, I did one because, like I said, they promoted my grandfather and then they reduced him back. So I went on a little tear with all of that. And because everybody talks about two and everybody's interested in two, because that's your parent. So when I would mention one, people would say two, and I would say, yeah, I know my dad was in World War II too, but I want to know about your granddad. Do you have a picture of your granddad? So that's okay.
Thanks again for the presentation. What I want to say is so many cemeteries over in France. There's so many cemeteries over in France for those who fought in World War I. And I was disenfranchised. I'm a travel agent. I have a client who wants to go visit his great grandfather's funeral. But the cemetery he's based at, OISEAISNE, there are tours that go to all the various cemeteries. For this particular cemetery, there is no tour that goes to that cemetery. When you get there, you can get a tour. The train stops in the city right there, but there are no taxes from our train station to. So what does that tell me? That's majorly where we are buried and they're not providing tours to that particular cemetery. Now, that's my personal interpretation.
So in the background, if they can. Or you go ahead. That's 2 or 3. So I actually don't have a question. You guys can hear me, right? In your hand, right? So I just want to say, because I do use the ship's manifest, but a lot of good information in there, and I don't think you highlighted it, but it tells where the troops left from and where they went to. And if you Google the name of the ship, you can find the ships that they were on a lot of times. It's just of it. So that's what I've been adding to my databases of people that have served. Thank you.
Johnette, I wanted you to tell about Netherlands embassy in Netherlands. But we not here. You don't have time.
All right. Okay, we have time for one more question. Here it is.
See, didn't I tell you people always want to bring up 2 when you talk about World War I?
So in your presentation, there was a couple of slides about the American Battle Memorial Cemeteries in France. What was the website? Was that the American Battle Memorial Commission? Is that what that was? Okay, thank you.